The Galactic Council Chamber was an imposing structure, a grand arena where representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy gathered to make decisions that could affect entire star systems. An air of supremacy permeated the room, the attendees steeped in centuries of political maneuvering, diplomatic protocols, and their unchallenged belief in their own superiority. The vast majority of the Council's members were long-lived, their civilizations advancing far beyond what Earth could even imagine. To them, humanity was nothing more than an insignificant blip on the galactic radar. Despite the billions of stars scattered across the galaxy, Earth had remained a curiosity, a relatively quiet planet in a far-flung corner of space. Humans were viewed as primitive, their technology nothing compared to the advanced weaponry and sophisticated infrastructures that other species wielded. No alien species had ever taken much interest in humanity beyond occasional trade or research missions. Earth was a planet too distant, too uninfluential, and too backward for any serious engagement. The Council had long dismissed the possibility that humanity could ever be a threat or even a real player in galactic politics. For the most part, Earth's isolation had worked in its favor. Its position in the Milky Way, so far removed from the galactic core, had ensured that it was largely ignored. While humanity made its small steps into space, launching probes and occasionally sending a satellite into orbit, the galactic community continued with its sprawling expansion, focusing on matters of greater significance. Empires rose and fell, technologies advanced in ways humans could barely comprehend, and the galaxy continued to turn without so much as a second thought given to Earth. That all changed when a human soldier, bloodied and disheveled, barged into the heart of the Council's chamber, demanding their attention. The room fell silent, a ripple of surprise running through the ranks of the esteemed species who filled the seats. The soldier stood tall, despite his appearance, with a hardened gaze that made even the most powerful members of the Council take pause. His uniform was torn, his face bruised, and his weapons, once a symbol of military power, now seemed to carry the weight of something more dire. "Why did you attack our home?" the soldier's voice rang out, cutting through the silence like a blade. "Why did you allow this to happen?" The Council members exchanged confused glances. The soldier's words, though spoken with clarity and conviction, made no sense. Earth hadn't been involved in any conflict with the galactic powers. No report had ever suggested any alien military presence near Earth, and no galactic empire had sent any emissaries to Earth in recent memory. They were all certain of one thing: Earth had been left alone, untouched by the larger affairs of the galaxy. The human soldier was not a diplomat, not an ambassador, and certainly not a representative of any major galactic faction. His very presence in the chamber was an anomaly, a mystery that no one in the room could immediately solve. Yet, his eyes burned with an intensity that left no room for doubt in his claim. He wasn't here by accident. He was here for something. He was here because of something the Council didn't know. A murmur ran through the chamber as the members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The leader of the Council, a tall and elegant figure from the Avrala, an ancient species known for their wisdom and grace, leaned forward, his tone neutral yet laced with disbelief. "You claim that Earth was attacked. But this is impossible," the Avralan leader said, his voice calm, but tinged with confusion. "We have no records of such an event. If Earth had come under attack, we would have known. Our sensors would have detected any anomaly, any military action in that region." The soldier's lips curled into a bitter smile. "You think we're too weak to defend ourselves? You think that because we don't have fleets of starships or planet-destroying weapons, we're helpless?" His tone was sharp, cutting through the facade of superiority that surrounded the Council. "You've underestimated us for too long. You've underestimated humanity." Another member, a reptilian representative from the Zorkin Dominion, hissed quietly in disdain. "The human species? It's a curious one, yes, but hardly worth concern. Your technology is primitive. Your military, laughable." His words were venomous, dripping with contempt. "Why should we waste our time on such a backward world?" The human soldier's gaze hardened, his fists tightening. "It's not about our technology," he snapped. "It's about our will to survive. It's about our ability to adapt, to rise above when the odds are stacked against us. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. The council had heard threats before, had dealt with species who claimed to have been wronged, but there was something different about the soldier's presence. It wasn't fear or desperation that emanated from him, but a cold, unwavering determination. The kind of resolve that only someone who had seen their home destroyed could possess. "I'm here to make one thing clear," the soldier continued, his voice low but full of conviction. "You've made a grave mistake. Earth might not have had the military might you're used to, but we've been preparing for this day for years. And now you'll learn that underestimating humanity is a fatal error." The council shifted uneasily in their seats. They had always thought of humans as a small, insignificant species, far beneath the grandeur of the galactic powers. But this soldier's defiance, his confidence in the face of overwhelming odds, was unsettling. He wasn't begging for mercy. He wasn't pleading for help. He was demanding accountability from a council that had never once considered that Earth could be a threat. "Explain yourself," the Averland leader said, his voice now tinged with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Tell us what happened to Earth." The soldier didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned slightly, his expression hardening as if reliving a memory that still haunted him. His next words came with a weight that seemed to carry the full burden of his home's destruction. "They came in the dead of night," he began, his voice low but steady. "A coalition of alien species, ones you would know, if you paid attention. They thought we wouldn't fight back. They thought we would roll over and die like every other species they've conquered. They were wrong. Dead wrong." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, a seed of doubt began to take root. Could this be true? Had Earth been attacked without their knowledge? The soldier was not just speaking of a raid or a skirmish. He was talking about a full-scale assault, an invasion. He looked back at the council, his eyes piercing through each member. "You don't understand yet, do you? You think you control the galaxy. But what you fail to realize is that we've been learning, evolving, and adapting in ways you've never considered. Earth may be small, but it's never been weak. We've been waiting for the day when the rest of the galaxy would realize it, too." His words hung in the air, and for the first time, the Galactic Council wasn't sure how to respond. The soldier had shaken their perception of humanity in a way they hadn't anticipated. For all their power and influence, they had underestimated Earth's potential for survival, and now, they were about to learn just how wrong they had been. The soldier's voice cut through the silence, direct and unyielding. "You attacked our home. Earth. And now you will answer for it." His words were sharp, delivered with the kind of certainty that made the council uneasy. The council members exchanged glances, unsure how to respond. The sudden intrusion was shocking enough, but the content of the human's accusation was beyond belief. For a long moment, the chamber hung in a tense stillness. The idea that Earth had been attacked was laughable to them. The council had no record of any such event, and even if they did, what could a few primitive humans possibly do in retaliation? One of the members, a tall, insectoid species known for their intelligence and long-range psychic capabilities, was the first to speak. "You must be mistaken," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "There has been no attack on Earth, nor would there be one. It's a backwater planet. No one has cause to." The soldier cut him off, his eyes narrowing with a mix of frustration and disbelief. "You don't even know, do you? You don't have a clue what your precious empires have been doing to us." He took a step forward, his voice rising with anger. "You think humans are weak, primitive, easily manipulated. But you're wrong. You've made a grave mistake, and now you'll learn why." Another council member, a sleek, reptilian figure, let out a low hiss. "And how do you intend to prove this baseless accusation? We have nothing in our records that show any such attack." The human soldier's face twisted into a grim smile. "You wouldn't, would you?" His tone was laced with dark humor. "Because your precious systems didn't detect anything, did they? You thought you were attacking a defenseless planet." He paused for a beat. "The attack didn't go as you planned. The soldier's words hung in the air, laden with meaning that none of the council members seemed to grasp. They looked at him with skepticism, disbelief written across their faces. "What are you suggesting?" the insectoid representative asked, voice tight with uncertainty. The soldier took a deep breath and began to recount the attack, each word sharp and clear. "Several weeks ago, your fleets descended on Earth. A coalition of your kind, thinking we were no different from the other primitive species you've conquered. You came for our resources, for our land. You believed Earth would fall without a fight." He shook his head, bitterness creeping into his tone. "But you underestimated us." A murmur rippled through the chamber. One of the higher-ranking members, a large, blue-skinned species with tentacles, raised a hand to silence the room. "This is a serious accusation," she said, her voice firm but cautious. "We've had no reports of such an attack. Earth has not been under any threat from the galactic community." "Are you sure of your facts?" The soldier stood unwavering. "I was there. I saw the devastation your fleets caused. But you never expected what came next." He took another step forward, his gaze never wavering. "Humans fight in ways you'll never understand. You brought your warships and your armies, but we didn't bend. We didn't break. And now your fleets are shattered." The members of the council looked at one another, confusion now lacing their expressions. Some seemed almost insulted by the humans' confidence. The idea that a handful of humans, with their primitive technology and their supposed lack of advanced tactics, could inflict any real damage on the council's forces was incomprehensible. "This is absurd," a young-looking, bipedal species with smooth purple skin said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "What kind of weapons could you possibly have that would put our fleets at risk?" The soldier's lips curled into a small, grim smile. "You never bothered to investigate, did you? You thought Earth was just another unimportant world, and now you're paying the price for your arrogance." He gave a short, bitter laugh. "Our military's been preparing for this for decades. You attacked the wrong species." The tension in the room escalated as the council members started to grasp the gravity of the situation. The human's words were beginning to make a chilling kind of sense. While Earth may have been technologically inferior to most of the galaxy's advanced civilizations, humanity had a resource that no one had anticipated: ingenuity. The human race had adapted to survive in ways that no one else had considered. "We didn't just fight back," the soldier continued. "We turned your own weapons against you. We hacked your communications, intercepted your commands, and used your technology against you. Your fleets were crippled, your forces scattered, and by the time you realized what was happening, it was already too late." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "The damage to your forces is irreparable. You're not going to recover from this." The room was silent as the realization began to settle in. It was unthinkable. Earth, a backwater planet thought to be on the fringes of galactic importance, had somehow turned the tables on the mightiest of empires. And the soldier wasn't finished. He still had more to say, more to reveal, and the council was finally starting to understand that this wasn't some madman ranting in desperation, it was a warning. The insectoid representative, who had been quiet until now, spoke again, but this time his voice was filled with a rare mix of awe and disbelief. "You speak of technology, of hacking. You don't mean to suggest you've mastered our most advanced systems?" The human's eyes gleamed, and his smile grew wider. "Not only did we master your systems, but we improved them. You underestimated us because you thought we were just a primitive species. But we've been learning, adapting, growing. And when your fleets attacked, they were met with something you could never have predicted." He paused for effect. "We're not just survivors, Council. We're a force that you'll have to reckon with from now on." The council members were visibly shaken now, their previously dismissive attitudes replaced by something closer to apprehension. What had started as an absurdity, a human soldier accusing them of attacking Earth, was now an undeniable reality. The tables had turned, and the once insignificant human race was no longer something to be ignored. The soldier had made his point, and now the council had no choice but to listen. The soldier straightened, his expression hardening as he launched into his story, each word punctuated with a simmering fury that filled the room. A few months ago, your fleets descended on Earth. You thought you were hitting a helpless target. You believed the stories you'd heard about us, that we were weak, that we were nothing more than an underdeveloped, isolated species that wouldn't know how to defend itself against a real threat. But what you didn't understand is that we've been preparing for this moment for decades. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. They had long believed humanity to be too disjointed, too uncoordinated to ever pose a real threat. Their technology had been far behind for centuries, and their efforts to expand into space had only recently begun to show any sign of success. But now, they were hearing something completely different. The soldier wasn't just speaking out of turn, he was speaking with the kind of certainty that only comes from first-hand experience. He took a deep breath, his voice lowering as he continued. You attacked with overwhelming force, dozens of your ships, with the most advanced weapons you could muster. You thought you were going to bomb us into submission. You thought we wouldn't fight back. But we did. The soldier paused, his eyes scanning the council members as if daring them to question him. We fought back in ways you couldn't have anticipated. Earth was far more prepared than you thought. We knew that one day, some power-hungry empire would try to take us, and we spent generations quietly arming ourselves, honing our tactics, and refining our technologies in secret. A low murmur rippled through the room as the soldier's words began to sink in. The idea that humanity had been preparing for this kind of war, without the council or anyone else noticing, was nearly impossible to believe. The council had tracked the human space program's growth, of course, but they had always dismissed Earth as a slow-moving, unimportant player. Even their most advanced warships had been deemed primitive compared to the fleets of the more established species. But the soldier was not done yet. We didn't just repel your attack. We crippled your fleets, he continued, the anger in his voice palpable. You thought your superior technology would guarantee your victory. But you didn't factor in human ingenuity, our adaptability, and our willingness to fight for our survival. You underestimated us, and that was your mistake. The soldier's eyes flashed with a fire that was impossible to ignore. When your first wave arrived, we fought back with what we had, scrappy, underpowered fighters, lasers that were barely calibrated, missiles that were far from cutting edge. And you thought we'd fold. But as soon as your ships crossed into Earth's orbit, we activated our secret weapon. The council members sat in stunned silence, each one processing the implications of the soldier's words. The idea of a secret weapon seemed ridiculous on the surface. How could humanity, far behind the rest of the galaxy in terms of technological advancements, have developed something capable of taking on the might of an interstellar armada? The soldier smirked, as though reading their thoughts. You weren't expecting the humans to have something even close to your level of firepower. But Earth has a resource that no other race has. A resource you never saw coming, our ability to think outside the box. Our creativity, our drive, our willingness to make the most of the smallest advantage. He leaned in, his voice dropping low as he delivered his final revelation. Your fleets were taken out one by one, systematically neutralized. Not by raw power, but by clever strategy, relentless sabotage, and weapons that we've been quietly refining. While your ships were busy dealing with our primitive tactics, we targeted your weak points. We used your own technology against you, reprogramming your systems and turning your weapons back on your own crews. The shock on the council members' faces was evident. They had no concept of what the human soldier was describing. How could Earth, a world with such limited resources, possibly pull off something so sophisticated? Yet, there was no doubt in the soldier's eyes. He wasn't lying, and the implications of his words were devastating. The real turning point came when your flagship, the Arcos Prime, entered Earth's atmosphere, the soldier continued. You thought it was a show of strength. But that's when we unleashed our final surprise. He paused, as if savoring the moment. We captured your flagship. Took it. Not by brute force, but by exploiting every single flaw in your design. Your so-called invincible warship was reduced to scrap metal in the blink of an eye. And then we made a message of it. We sent it back to you. A hushed silence descended on the room as the weight of the soldier's words settled in. To hear of a single human fleet capable of turning the tide in such an unthinkable battle was nearly impossible to reconcile with the image the Council had long held of Earth. The soldier wasn't merely describing a single skirmish. He was describing a decisive blow to one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. We didn't just defend our home, the soldier said, his voice cold and unrelenting. We showed you what humans are capable of when pushed to the brink. You thought we were weak. You thought we were easy pickings. But now, you'll understand, we're not a species to be underestimated. And we're not going to let you forget that. The soldier's eyes burned with the intensity of his conviction. He had made his point, and there was no mistaking it now. Earth had fought back, not with brute strength, but with the ingenuity and cunning that the Council had failed to account for. This was not the last time they would hear from humanity. If the Council had any doubts about the true nature of the human species, those doubts had just been shattered. We had our own weapons, our own tactics, the soldier continued, his voice calm but filled with a biting edge. We learned your weaknesses, studied your fleets, and we waited. When your attack came, we struck back, and we didn't hold back. We knew exactly how to cripple your forces. And we did. Not only did we stop you, but we also took down half of your fleet in the first wave. He leaned forward, eyes piercing through the silence that had settled over the chamber. It was no accident. You underestimated us. You were so used to bullying lesser species that you failed to see that humans are anything but weak. The Council members were stunned. The thought that humanity could not only defend itself but also deal such a blow to one of the most powerful coalitions in the galaxy was unfathomable. The soldier didn't give them a moment to recover from the shock, pressing on with a grim smile. Your fleets were in disarray, your command structure shattered. We didn't just fight, we outsmarted you. We used your own technology against you. We hijacked communications, turned your weapons on your ships, and even reprogrammed your automated defenses to fire on each other. You sent your best, and we tore them apart. His tone was resolute. And when the battle was over, when your fleets were broken and your forces in retreat, we didn't just stop there. We sent a message: if you come back, we'll be ready again, and next time, we won't be holding back. The soldier's gaze swept across the chamber, each council member seemingly struggling to come to terms with the revelation. The image they had of humanity, of a species incapable of defending itself, much less taking the fight to their doorstep, was unraveling. They had assumed that Earth was a backwater planet, incapable of posing any real threat. Now, they were forced to confront the hard truth: humanity had not only survived their attack but had turned the tables in ways they hadn't even considered. You think I'm the only one? The soldier asked, his voice now laced with a dark amusement. You think I'm the only one who knows how to fight? You're wrong. We're a species built for survival, for improvisation, for turning the tide when everything looks lost. You can't break us, and you never will. The silence in the room was palpable. The soldier's words had shattered the illusion of human weakness, leaving only the stark reality that they had misjudged the species completely. The very nature of humanity, its ability to adapt, to fight back, and to learn from its mistakes, was now exposed in all its terrifying potential. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council was forced to consider the possibility that they had underestimated the humans in a way that would have dire consequences for the future. The soldier stood motionless for a moment, letting the weight of his words settle over the chamber. Finally, he spoke again, his voice softer but no less dangerous. I'm not here to negotiate, not here to ask for your mercy. I'm here to make sure you understand one thing: we will never be your prey. If you come for us again, it will be the last mistake you make. He paused. And trust me, you don't want to see what happens when humans decide to hunt. The room was still. No one spoke for a long time. The council members were too stunned, too uncertain, to even formulate a response. The soldier had delivered his message, and now the galaxy would have to live with the consequences. The Galactic Council, so accustomed to dominance, had just been handed a painful reality check. Earth, once a mere footnote in the annals of galactic history, had proven itself far more formidable than anyone had imagined. And though the soldiers' words were a warning, they also carried the weight of a challenge. Humanity would no longer be overlooked. They were ready for whatever the galaxy would throw at them next, and the Council would have to reconsider its entire approach to the species they had once dismissed. As the soldier turned and walked toward the exit, his back straight and his steps purposeful, the silence in the chamber deepened. The future of the galaxy had just shifted in ways the Council couldn't yet comprehend, and one thing was clear: humanity would never be the same again. The game had changed, and the humans had just redefined the rules.